Pack it up, pack it in, let the surge begin. We take your socials up, you know we're built to win. Busy closing deals, running business all day. We handle your social so you can focus your way.
Good morning, everyone. It is Social Surge. Just waiting to go live on the gram. Takes a little bit. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I am Mo Regalado. You'll see me in just a few seconds. Over there is my ride or die, my boo, Hector Regalado, joining me today. And today we are talking about something that actually is a pretty interesting conversation, especially when it comes to AI. We all know that a lot of us use AI. We use AI generated images. We use AI generated content. And the Supreme Court had something or not to say about that. So Hector, why don't you break it down?
All right. So hang on, let me get this going right. Stop. Yes, there we go. So the Supreme Court was brought the case to them regarding whether or not AI generated images. So this was specific to images. It wasn't to any of the other AI creations or anything else like that. So, and it does include video as well, right? Because it is image. The lower court had already ruled on this, and obviously the people weren't happy with the results of that lower court, and so they took it up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, the basic case of it was, do you own the images? Do you have the copyright to the images? So you prompt something in, let's say, in Nana Banana,
Mm-hmm.
and you use it for your social media, you use it for your marketing, you use it for, wherever it is that you have your images, for your brand or for your business.
Mm-hmm.
And because obviously people, this question has been going around now for a little over a year now, as to whether or not that image is yours because you prompted it, you created it.
Did you actually create it though?
Nah, we'll get into that a little bit, right? We're going to dive into that a little bit. And so the Supreme Court.
Let me ask you, did the Supreme Court change AI forever?
No, not at the moment.
Good morning, Holly Pennington. Thanks for joining us over on the gram. We're talking about AI and actually who owns it. And I, of course, cut Hector off to say good morning to you. But the question is, did the Supreme Court change AI forever? Because, I mean, you look at the headlines, right? And the headlines are just like, of course, salacious. They need to sell stuff. So, it's everywhere this past week, at least for us, because we're interested in this. It's like the Supreme Court just changed AI copyright law, and the Supreme Court says AI can't be copyrighted, except for that's not exactly what happened.
Not exactly. No, definitely not. So again, it goes back to the lower court. The lower court made a decision, and the decision was, maybe you don't quite 100% own that AI image or that AI video. And so again, the people weren't happy with that decision. They took it up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, we're not going to review it. We're not going to take this case.
They declined to hear the case.
Correct. So what does that mean? Where does that leave people?
Well, so funny enough, you and I understand a little bit about constitutional law, so we understand that it goes back to the lower court ruling. But for the lay person, they don't understand that, if the Supreme Court declines to hear a case, it's not a ruling. It's the ruling from the lower court stands.
Correct. Right. So the lower court basically said, no, you have the image that's produced is not 100% yours.
Correct.
Who owns it though, right? That's the bottom line. Is because that was the question. Who owns the image that I just created? Is it the AI company? Is it me?
Well,
Is it nobody? Who?
So what I think is interesting about this case, it's a guy named Stephen Thaler. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, which isn't a big surprise because I can't pronounce anybody's last name. But he created a system, right? And then he used AI generated images to submit that to the US Copyright Office and listed AI as the sole author. So there, I think that's like number one, like right there. It's like, we can't do that. So he sued the Copyright Office after they rejected it. And the lower courts ruled that copyright laws require a human author. So then he appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court declined to hear the case. So the lower court ruling stands. Now,
Yes.
My question is, and maybe this is just common sense, maybe. Why would this person who seems incredibly smart, why would he have listed AI as the sole author?
Yes. That is the question, right?
Because he had to have put input in it, right? Like he couldn't have, like, you're not just gonna. We always talk about this, right? Like you put shit input, you're gonna get shit output with whatever it is that you're doing. I mean, it doesn't even have to be AI; it can just be anything, right? Mm-hmm. But his knowledge would have had to have gone into AI to be able to create the thing that he created to try to get a U.S. patent from it, U.S. copyright. Sorry, not patent. So to get a copyright from it. So then again, it just boggles my mind. Why would you put AI as the sole author when AI technically, while it helped you create it, it's not the sole author?
No. And I think maybe that's really why the courts ruled the way they did, in that he should have gone on the side of my intellectual property. I'm the one who thought about it. I'm the one who prompted it to do it in this manner. So I should be the one that's being the sole author. Now, AI is a tool, plain and simple. Just like Adobe's a tool, just like Canva's a tool, et cetera, et cetera. Would you put Adobe as the author, as the creator? No, because you're the one who put that image together. And I think maybe that was the biggest error in his case, is that he used AI as the author,
as the legal author of copyrighted work. And with everything that we know, AI systems have to be trained on something, right? Whether it's us and our input. We know that they trained ChatGPT on a lot of Reddit content, there was a whole brouhaha maybe a year ago. I don't know. It seems like it was forever ago, but it probably was only a couple months because time means nothing nowadays.
AI world, right? Everything's changing so fast, so quickly, right? So yes, it could have been a few months ago. It could have been a week ago, really. But no, you're right. It wasn't too long ago.
So, I mean, it just comes down to, we know that the content that is put into AI has to be input by someone. It is not thinking autonomously, as far as we know from what they tell us. It's not thinking autonomously yet, correct? So it has to receive data. It has to receive input. It has to receive something to be able to output something. Right. I think the bigger questions remain that, the big thing that you need to know about this case is, can an AI system itself be listed as the legal author of a copyrighted work? And the answer currently is no, right? Correct. But other questions remain, and I'm sure they're going to be worked out, such as, can AI assisted work receive copyright protection? because
Yeah.
again, are there elements being pulled from something else to create that image, to create that work? How much human editing is needed? How much of a human touch? We don't know the percentages. Is it 20%, 30%, 40%? Is it 50%? Can it be all the way up to 90%? You have to have 90% human touch for it to be considered okay to be a copyrighted work.
Right.
Here's a good one. Are prompts considered creative authorship?
Oh, so again, that goes back to, where was it trained, right? Where's it getting its basic information from? Now, granted, agentic AI, right? Agentic being that, like, let's say Claude Code or one of the other coding
Perplexity.
Perplexity or even OpenAI and Codex and things like that. You're looking at you you have that in most cases on your desktop and you put in that information, right? But
Right.
it's still trained. It still has to have a basic training, a basic code behind it so that it knows how to create whatever it is that you're doing, right? Um, a, a social post or it's some kind of document that you're using for, let's say, a white paper or something of that sort.
Hmm.
Your information from your brand, from your company is the basis for that. Was it trained? Was it coded on other material? Yeah, of course it was. In other words, um, there's a baseline, but then on top of that baseline, you're adding your own, and that I think is where some of this is really going to in the future be looked at, is how much of that is actually proprietary.
Yep.
In other words, is it brand specific or is it just, being brought in from Reddit, being brought in from LinkedIn, being brought in from
Right.
YouTube, wherever the case may be, from Wikipedia or wherever else? How much of that, right? Where's that split? Where's that divide? And
Right.
how are you creating that document?
Right. So, like, if you say, this is, obviously we are talking to marketers, we're talking to CRE brokers, we're talking to other people who are in our industry. You ask AI to write a blog for you. You decide that you're going to put it up on your website. Can you publish it? Yeah, you absolutely can publish it. Can you honestly say that you wrote it? Probably not. Unless, and again, unless it is coming from your own writing, right? So if
Correct.
you've written a book, if you've written, say you have been blogging for the last 20 some odd years and you take all of that content, you feed all of that content into AI, you get a list of 25 themes that you have talked about consistently over the last 20 years. And
Mhm.
then you ask AI, taking all of that content, can you create new content from the content that I provided? Wow, I've said content a lot in the last like
Mm.
30 seconds. Um, can you create new content from it?
Mm.
And does it align with your brand values? Does it align with your messaging, right? But you're still training the AI. And the big thing is that, if you're going to do stuff, if you're, it's a caution I use. If you're going to use AI, and I've been talking about this for a long time, I highly recommend you voice memo all of your content.
Mm.
Voice memo your thoughts, voice memo your ideas, take the transcript, throw it into your favorite AI of choice. Currently, I waffle between Claude and ChatGPT. Um, and then throw it in there. And the reason why I say that is because these are your thoughts, the
Yes.
thoughts that probably nobody else has heard, nobody else has listened to maybe.
Mhm.
It's all from you, correct? And so it's going to be in your voice tone and style. That's one. Two, those thoughts, those emotions, those feelings, whatever it is, can't be pulled from somebody else's blog unless you have a photographic memory and you start spouting off somebody else's blog word for word. So you have the options and the availability to use your voice and your thoughts and ideas to create content that is not anywhere else. We have to think about there's something called and it's something that search engines look for. It's called duplicate content. You and I have talked about this for many, many years. Duplicate content, and it actually used to be a really big, huge problem. I don't know if it's as big as a problem as it used to be, but like 2012, 2013, there used to be people that would go scrape other people's websites, pull all of their content off of there, and then throw it up on another website, claiming it as their own. So you have to worry about duplicate content. In 2009, I was a sentence rewriter. I know that sounds like a really funny thing to say, but I got hired by a company to rewrite sentences because of the idea about duplicate content. And I wrote a lot about, this is really disgusting. I wrote a lot about yeast infections.
Oh, yes. I remember those.
Yeast infections and what's that? Oh, I'm forgetting it. It's oh man, I can't believe I forgot. Forex trading. I wrote a lot about Forex trading. So if you've ever gotten into Forex trading and you were reading articles in 2009, 2010, I probably rewrote those articles because so they would give you an original article and then you would have to go in and you'd have to change a certain amount of words and a certain amount of sentences for it to not be considered duplicate content. Yes, that was a job. Yes, I did it. Yes, it allowed me to stay home with my kids. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But what's interesting is that immediately put into my head that we can't have duplicate content. And that's something that you do need to worry about when you are creating content with AI. You should be doing AI checking to make sure, not necessarily that it was written by AI, but making sure that it's not pulling from some other resource and then claiming it as yours. That's not what you want to happen.
No, definitely.
The other thing that we need to talk about is we know that a lot of people, and this has actually happened with and this is not a new thing because this has happened for years in the maker industry. When we're talking about creating a logo, right? So people would go into Canva, they would go get clip art pieces. They did not own the clip art. Again, no. I want to caution people I love Canva. Don't get me wrong. I love Canva. Canva's fabulous. But there are copyrighted images that are licensed to Canva that you are allowed to use in your stuff because you have a license through Canva. However, you can still get sued. You can still get sent a cease and desist letter if you're using that image in a way that violates that person's contract or license with Canva, right?
Right.
There's like all this fine print that people don't think about. Oh, well, I'll go to Pixabay or I'll go to Pixlr or I'll go here. And they pull an image off of those websites thinking that they're commercial, like they're royalty free or they're commercial use licenses. And they're not, because somebody pulled that from somewhere else and put it on one of those websites, but it's not their image. So make sure that you are fully aware of what you're posting when it comes to that. Now let's go back to AI images because again, can AI create a logo for your company?
So yes, an AI obviously can create that logo for you. Now the question is it yours? Is it your brand's? Technically, if you don't do anything to it, no, it is not yours. It goes back to that. How much do you need to adjust it? How much do you need to change on that image in order for you to claim it as yours? So a good example would be if you created a logo and somebody else created another logo and the two logos were very similar. Why would they be similar? Well, they used the same AI. if they use the same AI, there is a chance that your logo could potentially be similar to somebody else's. You cannot then go and claim that that other person stole your idea, because technically, yes, did you put your brand? Did you put this or that? Yes. But the overall image isn't changed enough for you to then go and claim that that image is being used illegally by somebody else, and you want them to take it down. You want them to change it. No, that's not going to work. Now, how will it work? You go ahead and change colors. You go ahead and change fonts. You go ahead and you add your brand's logo, an actual, like, let's say, like for us, we have the M for Movo.
Mhm.
If you use that in that image and you make the small adjustments to it, let's say we make 25% difference, right? We make
Okay.
enough, 25% change on it. Now we've changed it enough, at least if we're looking at other media, let's say music, or even let's say movie clips and things like that. How much of a movie clip can you use on your post? It's a GIF. A GIF is what? A couple seconds?
Yep.
15 seconds, maybe at the most. And that's accepted. On music, how much of a music clip can you use without the musician coming back and saying, "Hey, I want my royalties"?
Well, it depends. So hold on. This is one of my pet peeves. You're petting my peeve, baby. Is the fact that I see this done often, and it pisses me the hell off. It's when anyone is using copyrighted music where they got it from TikTok or Instagram, and they are using it to sell a service or a product.
Correct.
You do not own the rights to that music to sell a service or a product. So if you're using your personal account to show that you went to the beach and you were having fun, and that's it, then using that music is okay. If you are using your personal or business account to show that you went to the beach and it got paid for by your business and you want people to join your business, that is a commercial. You cannot use that music. You should not be using that music. And I believe this is going to be a hot button issue. I've said it for the last couple of years. It hasn't really come up just yet, but I believe that this is going to be a hot button issue for lawyers who want to make a quick buck, who want to, decide that they're going to start going after people for copyright or for using music where they're not supposed to, especially when it comes to creators. And I think creators, this is an issue with creators not understanding marketing and not understanding what they can and cannot do. If you're schlepping something for a company and you have a brand partnership and you're using copyright music, that's a no-no.
Right.
You should not be doing that.
A good example, let's say like Vanilla Ice. How much of that Queen music did they actually, or not Queen, who is it? David Bowie. How much of it did they actually take for Vanilla Ice, for Ice Ice Baby? It was like what? It was like less than a second.
Was it I know, I thought it was like 4 seconds. Wasn't it?
Was it?
Dun, 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 dun.
And that was it. That was it. And what happened to him? They went after him in court and they won. So it doesn't take much for you to be held legally liable for taking somebody else's intellectual property. And that's where the basis comes to, right? The bottom line is it somebody else's intellectual property? So going back to, let's say, that logo, if you adjust it enough, if you make enough adjustments to it, then it is now your logo and it is your intellectual property. And then you can go and say, hey, by the way, you need to take this off because this is way too close to mine.
Well, okay, so I'm going to stop you there because that's not entirely true.
Okay.
Because it has to be based. It also has to be based on. So if you've had that logo, it's usually it's the person who puts it into practice first. That's what happens. So if you can establish that, say you started a business in 2010 and then another business came out in 2020 and has a logo and a name similar to yours or whatever, if you can prove that you've had that logo longer, then obviously you can keep the logo, yada yada yada. But you do have to establish the fact that you've been using it. And the reason why I know way too much about this is because in the makerspace, when you are in that space, we actually own like a laser engraver thingy, laser cutter, which I haven't done anything with in a long time. So I'm sorry, love, that you bought that for me and I haven't used it in a couple of years. But so we have that, and that was a huge conversation happening in the makerspace. Is like, this is my logo. Somebody else took it. And I've been using it since 2010. I've been using this name since then. They have established, Etsy stores, whatever. And it's a huge issue. And part of it is because a lot of people, they don't think to hire a designer. So like our logo for our business was created by our daughter. That was one of her first commission projects that she ever made for us. And initially it was all hand drawn. So it's the M, and then it's the M curves down like two hands, right? So like we're holding. And then of course you can see the V in the M. So it's for Movo, right? But that was the whole design, is that like we hold our clients, we hold our customers' hands. We are there with them as we help them through social media. When she got more established and understood digital tools better, then we paid her again to redo the design. And so once again, it is hers. She created that for us, but she created it. First it was hand drawn, then it was designed. And so we know that is ours. Like there's nobody else out there that has that design. When it comes to the owl that we use, the owl is actually based off of me. And that was something that she came up with because we were just like, hey, why don't you create like a character for us? And so she created this owl because she looks at me as a wise old owl. And if you look at the owl's like the way that the eyebrows are, there's like it actually has an M, an O, and a V in it, right? So she designed it based off of Movo. And then of course it has my signature streak in it, and it wears glasses. So she did an amazing job of putting all of those elements together. But again, we had her design that for us. That is an original creation that she came up with. And so that if somebody were to take that, I'd be like, nope, that's ours. Thanks. That's ours. You shouldn't take that. But I think what people need to do when they're thinking about their logos, if you are going to have AI design it, I would highly recommend finding a designer and saying, this is the design that we want, but we need you to recreate it for us.
Right. Make the adjustments, right? Find somebody who can take that idea and use that as a basis. And it's same thing for your writing, right? You're not just you don't want to just take what's written by AI and claim it as yours and say, this is it. Again, yes, you are training it off of your material, but there's always that little touch, right? There's always a little bit of that AI touch in it. Take it out, remove it, make it yours. And at the end of the day, no one can say that it's you're either plagiarizing or whether hey, this is AI written or whatever the case may be. LinkedIn is hitting hard on AI generated posts. They're the first platform, honestly, that is really looking at this and saying, hey, this is way too much AI. They understand that you're going to be using it for ideation, right? Come up with the idea, come up with the outline of the format or whatever the case may be. But you need to make enough changes. They want you to make it you.
Right.
because they want people to actually have those conversations. They want people to actually connect. They want people to be authentic. And you're not being authentic when you're having a machine do it for you.
Well, and here's the other thing too, is that, and then we've talked about this a lot, is the fact that you still need to, regardless, you still need to proofread. You need to add your personal insights. You need to add your market knowledge, which is why I highly recommend when anybody wants to use AI to create social media posts, they do a voice memo. Let it come from your head first. Do a brain dump, right? Take that brain dump transcript and go, okay, how many different ideas can we get out of this one conversation? Analyze my voice tone and style. Like how am I speaking, am I speaking naturally? How would I write this? And that's the biggest challenge for a lot of people, is that they still have in their mind that they need to sound super smart, that they need to create content that is just going to blow people away. And the fact of the matter is, simple wins. Clarity wins. If you can create a message that is simple, that somebody can get it like that, that is going to win over somebody who writes a long ass thesis. And then you get to the bottom of it and you're like, okay, why did I just waste 3 minutes of my life reading this? And I mean, think about that statement that I just said. Why did I just waste 3 minutes of my life reading this? 3 minutes? Seriously? Like, we're worrying about, but that is how we think. Thank you for wasting my time, right? Like, I can't believe I sat here and read all of this, and then you don't get anything from it. So when we're creating this content, when we're using AI, please remember that it should be in your voice tone and style. There are ways that you can do that. And I think with this whole thing with the Supreme Court declining to hear the case is the fact that AI, you can't say that AI itself is the author.
No, you should look at AI as an intern, right? You should use it as your first draft, I mean, you could use it as a coach if you wanted to, right? I mean, AI is great for all that, bouncing ideas off of AI, getting a different view. I mean, if you use Perplexity, use it for what it really, the strong part of Perplexity is for research. It does a fantastic job of researching. It scours the internet, and it pulls up documents, it lists it for you, so that you can actually click on it and you can go and see and read those articles.
And I highly recommend that you do that, because on the other end, ChatGPT will make shit up and give you links, and you're like, oh, okay, there's a link there, and you go click on the link and it goes to nothing. And it's like, why did you make up a link? And then it'll apologize to you. Oh, I'm sorry, you're correct. I just made that up. Gee, thanks. You're having me cite something that doesn't exist. Click the links, people. The links are there for a reason. But I do love that about Perplexity, that Perplexity will have those links. And yes, I'm a news hound, right? We know this about me. And so I will follow a story all the way back to its origin to figure out where it actually came from. Right. That's just the news hound in me. But I want to make sure that when I'm talking about something, that I'm correct in what I'm saying. I don't want to come out and tell people something and then be like, oh shit, I was wrong. I wasn't correct. Right. So I guess what we need to, what business owners should do is they should start asking, how can AI help me create something that's uniquely mine, instead of, can AI do this? Because yes, AI can do it, but should AI be doing it? AI is not going to replace your expertise. You are the expert. You are the subject matter expert and whatever it is that you know about. So AI is not gonna replace that, but you need to ask AI to help you create something that's uniquely yours, and not something that's just kind of just spit out, right? So I mean, the law isn't saying don't use AI. It's saying that there still needs to be human interaction, there has to be a human touch that applies to everything. So
most definitely, yeah. You're not gonna get replaced by AI any at least anytime soon. Because you have that market knowledge or that industry knowledge, people are coming to you because of that. They're not going to AI. I mean, are they doing a search on
they
AI
could
to
be asking,
find those
definitely.
experts? Correct, right? They are using AI as a search engine to find those experts. Be that expert, show that expertise. Don't use AI as a crutch, right? People are always using, like my crutch word, uh, right? I use quite a bit. And right. So AI can be that crutch if you let it, because it's so simple. It's so easy, right? You just type in a couple of words here and there, hey, make this up for me. And it'll create it for you. But your audience wants to hear from you. They want to hear your expertise, your angle on it, your perspective that will help them make that decision of whether or not to buy, whether or not to rent, whether or not this is the right area. When I was doing residential real estate, and this goes, residential, pretty much everybody here has probably bought a home at one point or another in their life. They relied on that real estate agent, that residential real estate agent, to help them find the right neighborhood.
Right.
If you find the right a residential agent, they'll have, how are the schools in this area? If you have school age children, you want to know that. What's the crime rate in this area? Now, that's a big one, especially if you have little ones.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, you are the expert. Show that expertise. Don't shy away from it, and don't let AI completely take over your writing or your
brand.
Yeah, your brand, really.
So here's some practical advice for everybody when it comes to AI generated works. Definitely keep records of your creative process. You need to save your drafts and revisions. You need to document major edits, and then review the terms of service for the AI platforms that you use. And this includes, I would highly recommend maybe doing a little deep dive into Canva and what you can use and what you cannot use. You'd be surprised at the licenses that you are allowed to use through Canva, and then what happens when you turn it into commercial use. It's a totally different license.
Very much.
If you're creating logos or brand assets, you need to, obviously, you should talk to potentially the trademark, like look at trademark protection. And don't assume that every AI generated asset automatically belongs to you, particularly if you have not put any original thought or detail into the content. That is one of the scariest things, is not supplying enough information to the AI, so you have no idea where it's pulling the content from. And you can always, I mean, I don't know. It's not that I necessarily talk to ChatGPT, but I ask, where did you get this information from? Show me the documentation, give me the links. Because if I don't know, like just writing something technical about warehouse in Indiana, and they're telling me about legal heights for warehouse or whatever, I don't know, ceiling heights, right? And then I put in some content that it's 15 feet, and in Indiana it's actually supposed to be 22 feet. Well, then I've just screwed my client over, because I didn't know, obviously, what I didn't know, and I didn't ask. I didn't ask the follow-up questions. I didn't ask to clarify and make sure that that was correct. Always, always verify the content that you're putting out there. So I think it's going to be an interesting I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Clearly, we are not keeping up with the law.
Technology, right? Technology and the law, right? Technology and the law. The technology, especially with AI, is changing so rapidly, so rapidly that the law cannot keep up with it. And that's the case with a lot of parts of the law. Things change, whether let's say the automotive industry, or whether it's a whatever industry that you're looking at. Sometimes there are some changes that come that are just so fast, right? Things change so fast that the law look at your legislators. They argue about the silliest things, and they ignore the big stuff out there, and until somebody brings it up, whether it's at a town hall meeting or whether it's at an industry, it could be an industry event, where they're talking and somebody brings up that question, what about this or what about that? And they're like, oh wow, I didn't know this was something that you were concerned about. Well, yeah, obviously it's been going on for like a year and no one's done anything about it. So legislators are always behind the curve. Law is always behind the curve on everything. Technology especially.
Right. It really can't keep up, because there's a lot of debate that happens when it comes to that. And what's weird though is that it seems like there's more laws that are put on the books and that we have no knowledge of. And but as we like to tell our children, just because you didn't know it was a law doesn't mean that you are not subject to the law.
Right. Ignorance is not, it does not trump anything, right? Just
right.
because you didn't know, it doesn't mean you shouldn't follow it. So again, going back to your creativity, do the small changes. Don't be lazy about it. Adjust it accordingly. And at the end of the day, what you create will be yours intellectually, and that's your safeguard. That is your absolute safeguard. If you do enough adjustments to it, it's yours.
I think you need to start building smart habits now. Like I said, you need to be documenting those processes. You need to save your drafts and revisions. You need to document those major edits and make sure that you have everything put away. Excuse me. In the event that somebody comes up in the future and says, hey, that's mine. And you're like, wait a minute. No, that's not. I've been using this for a while. So just make sure you document. Marcy says, and who else AI is sourcing the same logo information to, and there could be redundancy. That's it. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know if it's doing that from somewhere else. And so again, always highly recommend that you check to see, just follow the breadcrumbs, people. Follow the breadcrumbs and make sure that you're protecting you and your assets. Yes, I said it the way I did. All right. So we will be back here on Thursday. It is time for us to wrap this up. If you have questions about, I don't know, go find a copyright lawyer, go find a trademark lawyer. I can't, we can't speak on that, but highly recommend that you just cover yourself and make sure that when you are creating logos, when you're creating any of this content, that you realize that who the true owner is and who it is not. Okay, everybody, we'll see you back here on Thursday, bright and early at 6:30 a.m. We'll see you then. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah.